At 5:12 a.m., the radar operator blinked, then leaned closer to the screen, because what he was seeing didn't make sense. At first, it was just a few scattered radar returns, fishing traffic, normal maritime noise. But then the context started multiplying, 10, 18, 32, and then suddenly, 70 fast-moving boats appeared almost at once, accelerating directly toward one of the most powerful warships ever built. The target was the massive nuclear aircraft carrier, USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72. And in less than 3 minutes, the calm waters of the Strait of Hormuz would turn into one of the most intense naval confrontations imaginable. The Strait of Hormuz is only 21 miles wide at its narrowest point, but every single day, nearly 20% of the world's oil supply passes through this narrow corridor. Tankers, cargo ships, military patrols. It is one of the most heavily monitored waterways on Earth, and it sits directly between Iran and Oman. For decades, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps has trained specifically for one type of naval warfare in these waters: swarm attacks. Instead of fighting large warships directly, they use dozens of small, extremely fast boats. Each boat is cheap. Each boat is expendable. But together, they can overwhelm even the most advanced defenses. At least, that was the theory. From the Iranian coastline, the boats surged forward. Most of them were variants of the high-speed Siraj-class fast attack boat. Small, light, but incredibly fast. Some capable of speeds above 75 knots. Each one carried weapons. Rocket launchers, heavy machine guns, sometimes even anti-ship missiles. And right now, 70 of them were heading straight toward the American carrier strike group. On the radar display inside the carrier's Combat Information Center, the tactical map turned red with threat indicators. The swarm split into 3 separate attack formations. One aimed directly at the carrier, the other 2 angled toward its escort destroyers. It was a classic swarm tactic. Attack from multiple directions, force the defense to divide its attention, overwhelm the target with numbers. But what the boats couldn't see was the sky. Even before the swarm closed within 15 miles, the carrier had already launched aircraft. 2 MH-60R Seahawk rose into the dark morning sky. From 1,500 feet above the ocean, their sensors could see everything. Thermal cameras tracked engines. Radar locked onto hulls. Laser designators painted targets. From above, the helicopter crews watched the swarm spread across the water like a moving web. The boats were accelerating, 70 knots, white wakes slicing across the calm sea. And they were getting closer, fast. But then, something new appeared on radar. 2 aircraft approaching from high altitude. Fast, very fast. The Iranian crews heard it before they saw it. A deep mechanical roar echoing across the water. Low, heavy, unmistakable. 2 attack aircraft descended toward the ocean. They weren't sleek naval fighters. They were something much more brutal. The legendary Fairchild Republic A-10 Thunderbolt II, designed during the Cold War for one purpose: destroying enemy armor. At the center of the aircraft sat a weapon so powerful the entire plane was built around it: the terrifying GAU-8 Avenger. A gun capable of firing 70 rounds every second, each round the size of a small soda bottle. And now, it was aimed at the lead boat in the swarm. The A-10 pilot lined up the attack run. Altitude, 300 feet. Speed, 350 miles per hour. Target locked. The pilot squeezed the trigger. The cannon erupted with its famous mechanical roar. Brrrt! A line of 30mm shells tore across the water. The lead boat disappeared in a violent explosion. Fiberglass hull shredded instantly. Fuel tank igniting in a fireball. The blast forced the boats behind it to scatter. And in that moment, the swarm attack collapsed. Because swarm tactics rely on perfect coordination. And once the formation breaks, each boat becomes an isolated target.
The second A-10 rolled into another attack run. Another burst of cannon fire. 2 more boats exploded. Meanwhile, the helicopters moved into position. One Seahawk locked onto a fleeing boat. Moments later, a missile dropped from its wing. The AGM-114 Hellfire streaked across the water. Impact. Another boat vanished in flames. Below, one of the carrier's escort ships opened fire. Its deck gun hammered the ocean with rapid bursts. Shells punched through hulls. Engines failed. Boats slowed to a stop. Within seconds, the once tight swarm had become scattered chaos. But one boat kept coming. It was moving incredibly fast. Full throttle. Straight toward the carrier. Inside the carrier's defensive systems, targeting radar locked instantly. The final line of defense activated. The rotating gun mount known as the Phalanx CIWS, nicknamed the last line of defense. Its computer detected the incoming boat, calculated its speed, calculated its trajectory, and fired automatically. The barrels spun at 4,500 rounds per minute. A stream of tungsten rounds tore across the water. The engagement lasted 4 seconds. When it ended, the boat no longer existed.
The remaining Iranian boats slowed, engines idling, crews staring across the water at burning debris. In barely 90 seconds, the entire attack had collapsed. Helicopters circled overhead. A 10 aircraft climbed back toward the clouds, and the massive aircraft carrier continued sailing forward. It never changed course, never slowed down. The strike group simply continued moving through the Strait of Hormuz as if nothing had happened. Within minutes, the remaining boats turned north, one by one. They retreated back toward Iranian waters. The ocean slowly returned to silence. Smoke drifted across the surface. Debris floated in the early morning light. And aboard the carrier, the crew returned to routine operations. Breakfast was served. Flight operations resumed, and the world's most important shipping lane remained open, but somewhere north of the strait. The surviving boat crews carried home a lesson that military planners had debated for decades. Speed and numbers can be dangerous, but against a layered defense system built for exactly this scenario, closing the distance is almost impossible. Just as the last Iranian boats disappeared into the morning haze, the strike group's sensors were still quietly working. The ships and aircraft around the USS Abraham Lincoln, CVN-72, had recorded everything that happened in those brief moments. The radar signatures of each fast attack craft, the engine acoustics, the maneuver patterns, and even the formation timing used by the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps crews. To the outside world, it looked like a short confrontation that ended as quickly as it began. But inside the carrier's operations network, analysts were already studying every detail. Data from the helicopters, ship radars, and airborne sensors was being compared and archived, building an even clearer picture of how swarm tactics were evolving in the narrow waters of the Strait of Hormuz. Every second of the engagement became part of a growing database used to refine future defense planning. As the sun finally rose above the horizon, the ocean settled back into its routine rhythm. Tankers continued moving through the shipping lanes, their massive hulls gliding through calm water that only minutes earlier had been filled with chaos. On the flight deck, helicopters returned to their patrol positions, while aircraft climbed back to cruising altitude, restoring the layered defensive shield around the carrier group. To anyone watching from a distance, the massive warship appeared almost indifferent to the encounter, continuing its steady transit through one of the most strategically important waterways on Earth. The brief clash had ended without escalation, without announcements, and without altering the carrier's course, leaving behind only drifting smoke, scattered debris, and a quiet reminder of how quickly modern naval warfare can unfold when speed, technology, and preparation collide.